Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Panenka podcast. I'm your host, Callum, and I'm an unfortunate Everton fan. I'm joined here today by...
My name's Lewis, and I support Reading.
I am Harvey, and sadly, I do support West Ham.
I'm Calstagram, and I support Liverpool.
I am Ashlee, and I support Manchester United.
So, for a little treat for you today, we are going to Premier League all-time 11, based off a short list that we have created previously. For certain parts, we will rattle off names on the short list, but it may take a while. But we're going to be playing a 4-3-3 formation.
Yeah,
Is that
that
okay
works.
with everybody?
Yes, mate.
Right.
Yeah, I do.
With the goalkeeper position.
So that's a tough one. I think I'd have to go with Peter Schmeichel.
Why? How come?
I'd say he was probably, out of those five goalkeepers and just out of any goalkeeper in general, I'd say he had the most years at his best, if that makes sense. He was just top. I think out of all the seasons in the Premier League, I'd say he was the best for
I'd argue
all
Czech,
of
though.
them.
I'd
Most
argue
of them.
Czech is always at the top for a while. He was in his prime at Chelsea for a while.
Yeah, I think I'd have to step in and agree with Harvey here. Czech's got 200. I think it's 200
He has the
and
Premier
something
League
clean
record
sheets.
for clean sheets, I believe.
I understand his last few years at Arsenal weren't the best, but let's put it simply: Chelsea would not have won any of the Premier League,
FA
the
Cups,
Champions League,
all sorts of about.
100%.
David.
In terms of who I'd least like to come across as a striker, I would say Peter Schmeichel.
The man scored 9 bloody goals in the Premier League, didn't he?
The big boy.
I don't know,
9 career
because my
goals.
thing is, Petr Cech got clarted in the head with a boot and still ended up being the best goalkeeper
He's
in
a
the
tough
league.
cookie.
If I'm a striker and I look at a prime goalkeeper one-on-one, I'd say Petr Cech, because Peter Schmeichel set the foundation with, his start. He was the one who
was a
basically
sweeper,
invented the
wasn't he?
star jump save.
A little bit like Neuer.
Yeah, he was like an original. Yeah, he was an original. What you'd look at now as a sweeper keeper. The save techniques that a lot of goalkeepers use now are used from Schmeichel and Buffon. But if you look at it, if you look at someone who you'd go, right, I'm a striker one-on-one on goal. I think a lot of players would say
I think we're
Petr Cech.
forgetting Van der Sar. I mean, I only sort of watched him for a brief time while he was in the Premier League, but as a Glory supporter in my younger days, the only team I knew of was Man United. So obviously, sort of Van der Sar was the first keeper that I ever knew of. He was, he cannot be left out of this list, not at all. Has anybody got anything to say on Van der Sar?
I think people look past Van der Sar because of the style of keeper he was.
How do you mean?
He wouldn't make the proper jumping left and right proper top corner saves, but he was very reliable at his job.
Yeah, Van der Sar was your classic back to basics.
Do you know what?
Goalkeeper.
I think to settle this once and for all, I think you have to take into account Jose Mourinho's. Was it 2005 and 6 Chelsea team? In an entire Premier League 38-game season, they have the record for the least amount of goals conceded. Yes, they had Terry and Ivanovic and God knows who else in front of them. But for me personally, I think that Czech's got to take this one.
I know what you mean. That Chelsea defence had Terry, Carvalho as the centre-backs. One of the best centre-back, Carvalho, or how do you pronounce it? As basically one of the best centre-back partnerships of all time. But then you had, if we talk about centre-back partnerships, I'm not really...
Vidic and Rio Ferdinand.
Of course, for Van der Sar,
That's
Vidic and Ferdinand.
That is filthy.
For Joe Hart, you had Company, you had Kolarov, you had Zabaleta. For Petr Cech, you had a lot of defenders, but obviously...
Are we sitting on Czech then, guys? Is that the end?
Well, we'll do a vote. So I'm going to say Schmeichel. Calstagram, who are you going to say?
I just didn't. I've not said anything throughout the whole thing because I was sort of thinking that we just completely went over Joe Hart.
I'd say he's underrated. I think he was quite good in his prime. I think of that top corner save against Tottenham,
what a save!
And then when Rooney tried to chip him from the halfway line when he went up, and then he managed to clear it. I think people underrate Joe Hart. He was in his prime.
His fall from grace was worse than any I've seen in recent history.
I'd say people underrate Joe Hart, but none other of those four goalkeepers really had that fall from grace. David Seaman, someone we also didn't mention, made one of the best saves in Premier League history at 39 years old. When he pushed it out.
Invincibles as well.
You'll know it's
we can't underestimate.
Van der Sar was at his oldest and at his worst at Man United, and was still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And Peter Schmeichel was still a solid goalkeeper at Man City. And Petr Cech at Arsenal, you know, he had his bad moments, but he was still a solid, reliable goalkeeper. That kept Leno out of the side.
Good point.
Yeah, I think Joe Hart definitely deserved a little shout.
An honourable mention will go to Joe Hart in the list. Honourable mention.
Yeah.
As my Everton fan and as biased,
Tim
I'm
Howard.
Saying honourable mention for
big beard guy. Can't forget that.
Yeah.
That save.
I remember his save that he did against
when
Southampton.
He smashes it back over the line with his fist.
Yeah, like Tim Howard had Tourette's and could still save.
Means he should win.
Right. But anyway, so we're gonna go for a vote. Lewis, Schmeichel, Calstagram.
I'm gonna go Petr Cech personally.
Ashlee.
I would have gone Peter Schmeichel.
I think I'm gonna have to go with
Harvey.
Cech purely because of that season with Chelsea.
And me being the final vote, I would also say Petr Cech. So in our starting Premier League 11, Petr Cech is our goalkeeper.
An Arsenal player.
So next on the list we have left backs. We have 5 left backs here. And when I read the second name, everyone's going to laugh because of your So I think this is going to be a unanimous vote, unfortunately. Yes, I'm also going to have to. But for left backs, we've got Ashley Cole, Leighton Baines, Kolarov, Patrice Evra, and Dennis Irwin. I'm going to say it now. We are all unanimously saying Ashley Cole.
Ashley Cole or Patrice Evra, I think.
Ashley Cole.
Well, to be honest, I think Dennis Irwin, everyone forgets about Dennis Irwin because of all the players that were around him. Everyone forgets about him. I think he's higher. He should be rated higher than he is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Everyone thinking, but Ashley Cole, literally, you saw Ashley Cole develop from the era where it was no nonsense. The job of the fullback was to stop the winger. And he evolved into the sort of modern fullback where he could get, it wasn't much, but 4 or 5 assists from a fullback.
Enough for a season.
He became someone who could be an attacking threat. The only one here who really I could say was a decent attacking threat was Leighton Baines. And Patrice Evra, and as an Everton fan, I'd only say Leighton Baines was dangerous as an attacking threat because of set pieces.
I mean, he scored some great free kicks, didn't he?
He did, and I would make the argument that Leighton Baines is underrated. But Ashley Cole, if we're making an all-time team based off players at their best and the impact they had on the Premier League,
I did read somewhere. I read somewhere that Ronaldo and Messi combined have played against Ashley Cole. I think it was 12 times in their career, and then they'd only managed 1 goal in both of all of their appearances against him, which sort of says for itself. You know, it's he knew how to deal with the best for sure.
People may disagree, but I say Ashley Cole was the prototype for your Kyle. I know he's a right back, but
your sturdy fullbacks
of the world. These fast, mobile fullbacks who can defend like a centre back. Maybe not as well, but they can if you put Ashley Cole at centre back, I still think he would have had a decent career.
His height might have let him down a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're all agreeing.
I think Ashley Cole's
lineup.
That's 2 Chelsea players to start off.
Yeah, I agree.
God, that's scary.
It is. So, we're going to be going into right backs now, and I personally, off my opinion, this is about to be a first Chelsea player getting it.
Sorry, what's the list? Go on with the list, sorry.
Yeah, we've got...
I don't know about that.
Right, so anyway, the short list, Ivanovic is obviously one of the names. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. But
no, yeah.
So, Zabaleta, Ivanovic, Gary Neville, Bakary Sagna, and Kyle Walker.
I'd actually say Neville, from that lot.
I would say Gary Neville from that one.
My issue with Gary Neville was Gary... I know this
is
going to offend the hundreds and thousands of
definitely this podcast.
But was Gary Neville...
Everyone's listening.
He was the part of the class of '97, wasn't he? He was...
If you look at the class of '97, 92, sorry, and you see players like Phil Neville and Nicky Butt who never made it past what?
Whoa!
99.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. I will have no podcast. I will have no disrespect towards Lord Phil Neville.
But Gary Neville kept the same consistency.
Yeah, I was going to say, he consistently kept it up for a number of years in a very good Manchester United side. The fact that he never got replaced, or even looked at being replaced, shows I think he's definitely up there.
But here's my thing. Is that due to Alex Ferguson's loyalty? Or
might be a bit of both when you put it like that.
I think it's a bit of both.
Because if I'm saying I want a right back for my all-time team, I'm sorry, but Gary Neville's arguably the last name I'd want there. I'd arguably talent.
I think I'd put Ivanovic over Samuel.
But because
he was an absolute unit.
I'm going to say this now. Ivanovic is the best defensive fullback in Premier League history.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say best defensive fullback.
It's different.
Defensive,
not the best fullback. If you have your winger running in at a fullback, the one fullback you do not want going on a one-on-one is Ivanovic because he will win.
He's a big boy.
Ivanovic, he's a big boy and at his prime he was mobile enough to.
What does that take us to then? What are we all thinking? Because I'm still personally sort of swayed towards Gary Neville purely because he was part of the Man United team that won 13 league titles. 13. You know, he was part of the pioneer side that sort of that brought them from the dust, if you will.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Gary Neville.
I'm also going to go Gary Neville.
But if we're going by that logic, Irwin was also in that team and we completely went past him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He wasn't there as long.
In my opinion, I think I probably agree with Gaffer and saying Ivanovic, just because I remember some of the things that he did for Chelsea. Even though it wasn't Premier League technically, I still remember that header he scored against Benfica in the Europa League final that one time. He rose like a salmon.
To put it in perspective, how many good left wingers do you remember from the Premier League? Giggs, Ronaldo, stuff like that. Right wingers?
Many.
Right wingers? You don't really think of many right wingers. So I would say that Ivanovic, Zabaleta.
Honourable mention
Zabaleta very underrated, by the way, too.
I'd say.
Yeah, Zabaleta's amazing. But I'd say Ivanovic.
Close second, Ivanovic. It sounds like Gary Neville won that 3-2. Is that?
Yeah, that's
that
majority Gary Neville.
Yeah.
I'm going Gary Neville.
Yeah. So we're saying Gary Neville.
We'll break the Chelsea duct.
So I'm going to we've got, for the positions like centre-backs, midfielders, or forwards, we've got more than 5 players because
it's not a niche position.
Of course, it's multiple players play that position. So I'm basically going to rattle off all the names, and then I'm going to ask for your centre-back 1, so basically your centre-back 1 will be the best centre-back of all time, in your opinion. And then centre-back 2 will be your number 2. So the choices we have at centre-back are Vidic, Ferdinand, Kompany, Terry, Sol Campbell, Tony Adams, Jamie Carragher, Virgil van Dijk.
You've got Van Dijk in the best
or
11.
Steve Bruce.
Oh, do you know what?
To be honest, I think Van Dijk's justified to be in there, but I don't think Van Dijk will definitely get in the top 2.
Because if we're going to talk about this, I think Van Dijk gets in because Van Dijk could have arguably won. I'm an Everton fan. I hate to say this, but Van Dijk could have.
It was close. It was the closest Ballon d'Or in the last 20 years. It was very, very close for that Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
I think it was 20 votes that Messi won by.
I mean, if you look at what he's done for that Liverpool team, we see you brought him in and their defence was completely sorted nearly.
Like, look at when, Man United splashed useless money on Harry Maguire. Like, they spent too much.
Nah.
Because why did they spend? You have to look at why did Man United spend that much? People are like, because he's English. I don't. It's because they saw Virgil van Dijk and they were like, spending big money on a defender.
My problem with that is that he's not had long enough in the spotlight to prove himself. No, I'm not saying. I'm by no means saying he couldn't get into this 11, but purely because he's only been in the spotlight of this new sort of team from Liverpool for 2 years. I think that he isn't. He's not on that level to sort of make it.
I'd agree. I would say Van Dijk doesn't make the team.
Yeah.
The honourable mention.
Spot in the shortlist.
I'd say by the time that Van Dijk retires, he will be in there, though.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start first.
If he helps Liverpool win so many Premier League trophies, maybe after this one, who knows if it happens, it might not. Then he could be there.
Without any discussion on his name, I'm straightforward. I'm going with Vidic purely because, he is.
Vidic.
He was him and Rio Ferdinand made one of the best partnerships at the back I have ever seen in football footballing history, not just Premier League.
I'd agree with Vidic, but Vidic wouldn't be my number one. My number one
It's not a bad
has
shot.
to be John Terry.
Yeah, it's good.
My number two.
My number one.
Guys.
My number one is Rio Ferdinand.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rio
I feel like there could be a bit of
Not
bias in that.
there could be. But I remember watching Rio Ferdinand. He's so strong. He reads the game well. He's fast. I think he was just like the complete centre back.
he didn't have all that lot of pace about him, did
Yeah.
he?
Our goalkeeper argument was, if you're coming
Vidic,
at one
because he's not afraid to get bloody.
He's
He's not afraid to get stuck in.
I would much rather have Vidic for my one team than Ferdinand, and I'd much rather have John Terry over Ferdinand also, because John Terry was a leader, did it for so long, and like he was part of the best Premier League defense. He basically carried Chelsea at their worst points defensively. He had his mistakes, like every player does. Arguably, John Terry had more mistakes than other players. But in the end, John Terry would miss that penalty, but then would still move on to the next season and wouldn't let that, for example, that penalty define.
The reason why we put Van Dijk up here is because he brings an aspect to sort of a new style of defending that we haven't seen in the past. He's naturally quick. He is one of the fastest players in the Premier League this season so far, which we'd never seen from a player like Terry. Terry was always known for being, this big slab at the back, but he was never associated with his pace. Never. Vidic wasn't. Ferdinand wasn't. Van Dijk's got this different sort of pace to him that I think sort of puts him in this this sort of list.
I'd say if we were going off pure talent, then it would, in my opinion personally, would be Van Dijk and Sol Campbell. But we're not going off just pure talent.
Guys, it's a crime. We have not mentioned Vincent Kompany yet, and the fact that he's not in anyone else's or one or two is generally disgusting.
I don't know. He was good. Yes, he was good for his 10 years there, but at the same time, when mentioning all these other names, they've won so many more accolades and awards and trophies and etc. I think they've just done so much more in their career that just puts many of these ahead of Vincent Kompany.
He was part of the team that made City on the map.
If he hadn't got injured, then it'd be exactly the same.
It's not like Vincent Kompany came in when Pep came in and they started dominating. Yeah. Vincent Kompany being in the year before Man City got taken over.
And he was a defensive midfielder back then, I believe.
That team was nothing.
With all that money,
we've seen that Middlesbrough beat Man City 8-1 back in the day, haven't we?
He was probably part of that team that day, to be honest.
Yeah.
Honourable mention for me is Vincent Kompany. I think that he.
Yeah.
Why? Go on.
Should be in it.
I think the fact that none of us have mentioned him before just shows that he's not.
Yeah, I feel like because if we thought he'd get in there, we would have mentioned him quite early on. But you see, the names of we've already spoken about John Terry a fair amount. Sorry, for me, John Terry's number one. I'm actually having a more tough decision thinking of number two.
John Terry's my number two.
John Terry's my
but Vincent Kompany, I think, is my number one.
Our number ones for the lot.
It was John Terry.
I'm going to have to go with Vidic, I think.
Harvey.
Vidic.
Calstagram.
Oh, what?
Going to go for Vincent Kompany, I think.
And Ashlee.
My number one centre-back.
Ashlee,
it would probably be Rio Ferdinand still.
Have we all gone for different ones?
So far.
Right, and my John Terry.
Right,
so we've got.
Personally, my number two is John Terry. I think John Terry deserves to be number one centre back.
So I think it's guaranteed John Terry's going to be in there.
Yeah.
This doesn't. It's just who gets the most votes.
Then what about everyone's number two?
Terry is mine.
Vidic is mine.
Yeah, Terry's mine.
I'm going to go with Rio Ferdinand being mine.
Oh.
John Terry's my number one, so I'm.
Yeah.
So we're guaranteeing that John Terry's in the lineup. So it sounds like number two is between Vidic and Ferdinand.
Personally, out of those two, I'd have to pick Ferdinand because Vidic got absolutely skinned by Fernando Torres in that game.
You can't put it over one game.
In the prime of the game. I think purely because of this quote that I've read all over the internet, it is everywhere. It's about Vidic speaking about respect and honour and whatnot and his pride. And he said you can't fix your pride, but you can fix a broken nose. And the picture is of him with a bloody nose, which screams to me that he's the sort of guy that isn't afraid to just let loose, get stuck in, get right in there.
My thing is, Rio Ferdinand has such a rich history as a player. I believe it was West Ham. With Leeds,
it was QPR, wasn't it?
Christ.
Wow.
But exactly, that's what I was getting to. He threw his career away, his credibility away for money. Vidic never threw his credibility.
But at the same time, Ferdinand was reaching the very end of his career going to QPR. Like I don't blame him, especially when your contract's being run down at Man U, and then there's a QPR there who's a Premier League team still playing competitively, and paying a lot of money. I don't blame him for going there.
Early.
But that's not the issue. The issue is Rio Ferdinand went to QPR, took the money, and put his tools down and didn't try.
But would at that age when you're, I don't know, I wouldn't take that away. I wouldn't let that take some of the stuff he did away from him.
My thing is, if you want to be a great, you have to go down fighting. John Terry didn't play for Antonio Conte's team much, but when he was on the pitch in that last season for Chelsea, he grinded. He put the graft in.
Yeah, but you could say at the same time, John Terry went to Aston Villa.
Ashley Cole went to Derby.
Oh, I forgot about that. Damn.
Exactly. You could say all these players. Like, yes, John Terry went to Aston Villa and Aston Villa got to play a final, but at the same time, he probably could have gone back to a better Premier League team. And Aston Villa were a Championship team paying a lot of money at the time, and they nearly got done for financial issues and stuff like that. So, you could say John Terry even did the same.
But here's the issue: is John Terry left to Aston Villa to get a coaching job? He went as a player, but a part of that thing was you can become a coach at our team, and he wanted to become a coach. It's the same way Wayne Rooney has gone to Derby now.
I think off of that,
like
it does sound like we're still sort of swinging towards Vidic being in that last spot.
Guys, I think we need to rush this now because we've got these midfielders and we've got these strikers, and we're going to struggle even more there.
Everyone will just say Vidic or Ferdinand, just pick your one.
Right, cool. So I'll start off.
I'm Ferdinand.
So we've got one each for Vidic, Ferdinand. What do you think, Lewis?
Yeah.
Calstagram.
With a decided vote, I'm going to have to Vidic, I'm afraid.
So what we've got, I'm going to recap our goalkeeper and defence now for everybody.
Easy.
In goal, we have Petr Cech. At right back, we have Gary Neville. Left back, Ashlee Cole. And our two centre-backs are
we've
John
got quite
Terry
a recent
and
team.
Vidic.
This is all in the last sort of 10-15 years we've got so far.
I think that's more just because we weren't really alive for the early bits.
My thing is, I would say the talent in the Premier League has grew as the time
Yeah.
That's a football thing worldwide, though, isn't it?
We're a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds. Steve Bruce is on the list, but that's due to research. That's not due to us watching Steve Bruce. We watched Vidic, we watched Ferdinand, we watched Company. So it's like... So it's like, we've watched all these players. We can't really comment on players from the past because this is, again, it's our personal Premier League team. It's not the definitive
Very good
Premier
point.
League 11.
Now
It's
on that,
our all-time
let's
Premier
try and
League 11.
scooch towards the midfield. We're going to have a lot of fun here, boys, aren't we?
So we're going to do same thing. Midfielder 1, midfielder 2, and midfielder 3. And I'm putting the point out now, midfielder 1 is between Roy Keane and Frank Lampard, and I'm going to take Frank Lampard as midfielder 1.
Oh, no, do you know what? Roy Keane adds a physicality to his side.
As you can tell, Frank Lampard is the greatest midfielder of all
time. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well,
for you now.
Yeah.
And I'm including Republic of Ireland in British as well. But that's not...
Go on.
Well,
anyway, for our 10 midfielders, we have Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Vieira, Keane. This is going to annoy a bunch of people. De Bruyne, David Silva, Yaya Toure, Makelele, Kante, David Beckham, and Cesc Fabregas.
Right, I've got two.
Lewis has two.
Right, out of the way now. Yes, technically Beckham is.
I've got my three.
But looking at Beckham, he was a right midfielder. I'd say Beckham, if you put him in a modern team, in a modern system, Beckham would be that advanced playmaker, central midfielder sort of player, who maybe could switch with a winger onto the right. For example, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva at Man City. But anyway, so for midfielder number 1, we're just going to get straight into it. My midfielder number 1 is Frank Lampard. I think he's the greatest midfielder.
I agree with Frank Lampard.
5 player to ever play in the Premier League.
Yeah, being a centre midfielder and being a record goal scorer for your club or whatever is nothing it's not easy.
A lot of people, as well, a lot of people who maybe are more into the modern, your De Bruyne's, your modern midfielders. I'm going to use De Bruyne as the example because he's the easy one everyone knows. You look at a player who has this sort of just pure offensive, this pure 17 assists a season. He has maestro passing. He has. I would say he has Iniesta level passing.
That's bold.
Ooh. I wouldn't say that. That's bold.
I wouldn't say De Bruyne's as good.
A bit like Iniesta.
De Bruyne has Iniesta level passing.
I'm just pulling it up now for Frank Lampard's Premier League record. We've got 609 appearances, 177 goals, and he managed 349 wins, which is just over 50%. 102 assists from right in the middle of midfield to get, what is that, almost 300 goal contributions in 600 appearances is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
More than 300.
And let me just sum this up for maybe younger people who didn't see Frank Lampard.
Frank
Lampard was not an attacking midfielder.
He was the epicenter of that Chelsea team for a good midfielder. 10.
I'm going to put it simply. That Chelsea team would not have a single Premier League title except the Antonio Conte title.
You can't forget when he scored against Chelsea for
without
City.
Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Lord. That was scenes.
Let's put it. Everyone here. Everyone here loves Didier Drogba. Everyone. Simple.
It's a lovely guy.
Drogba was a big. I wouldn't say big. He was a big game striker. Not a consistent striker. The epicenter of goals for that Chelsea team for so many years was Frank Lampard. Because if you take Lampard out of that side,
are we all agreed that
20 goals
Lampard beats Scholes and Gerrard?
Yeah, I think he does.
Scholes should not be included in that argument.
But I would also say, I think
I'm putting Roy Keane in my team.
Physicality.
I'm not.
I'm putting Roy Keane in this team, and Roy Keane is the captain of this team.
Terry.
I'd go with Terry for captain as well. See, I wouldn't know. I don't mean Roy Keane gets in my 3, personally.
Roy Keane's not in my 3.
You won't find a player who grafts as hard. He's not the most technically talented, no. But Roy Keane's going to get a team on his side. Obviously, a lot of people thought that.
Yeah, he's very controversial.
Shite, to put it simply. He doesn't have the words that come out of his mouth when he's doing punditry. But as a player, there's a reason websites like 442 have voted him the greatest midfielder to ever play in the Premier League. He worked hard, he had natural talent, and he got players. Let's put it simply, Man United don't win a few of those.
Man United
Roy Keane was the
right
most.
now. What you guys?
No, they win them anyway because they've got Alex Ferguson. Let's be honest.
You can put Roy. Yeah, but that's like me arguing Liverpool
what are you guys
wouldn't
making
win a league
McTominay
title
as
if they didn't have
being the
Jurgen
next
Klopp.
sort of midfield holding part for Man United? I'm not going for an old.
You can't mention McTominay in an all-time Premier
McTominay
League
can
11.
be there if he has the right mentality.
Tom Davies would be great in that team. That's all I'm saying, lad.
I'm
Really?
literally going to argue Tom Davies is a better player than.
No, he's definitely not.
No.
He got a debut goal versus
McTominay is 100% better than Tom
Another debut
Davies.
goal versus.
Scott McTominay is he's a grafter and he works hard, but that doesn't always mean you're a good footballer. Scott McTominay is a bench quality midfielder for Man
But then you
United.
say Tom Davies is. Does he even make the bench?
Yes,
I like. You don't hear anything about Tom Davies. You started to hear things about McTominay. McTominay is better.
No, you don't. The only people you hear rave about.
Because that shows how bad that their midfield is at the moment.
Exactly.
Man United.
Tom Davies
That was a beautiful
broke into the
goal
Everton
that he
squad
scored
at
in City
18,
on his debut.
was putting up.
But then surely then wouldn't you
I'm
argue that Tom Davies should be then, how old is he now? He's probably like 2021. Like, I would have thought he would have done better than he is now, or he should do by now. Whereas McTominay, I think, has made like better progress.
Is it Tom Davies' fault we've signed Gylfi Sigurdsson, Andre Gomez, Gabami?
This is all
these
very off
midfielders?
topic.
That's not Tom Davies' fault.
I shouldn't have
Yes.
mentioned McTominay.
I'll say anyway.
It is.
go
We
back
really
to
need to get
the
back on
big
the
three
right,
Lampard.
because
it's going to be a long podcast.
To put it simply,
I've just
Scott
pulled up all the
McTominay is
stats
not the next
here,
Roy
and
Keane.
we've got
Roy Keane gets in this
Scholes
11.
has the best winning ratio of the three. I think that's easy to say.
But then at the same
Man
time-
United
He's the best
was
team.
the team of the Premier League era as of date.
Let's put it simply. I'm going to use Gerrard because we've already spoken about Lampard. If Gerrard's on that Man United team, Gerrard is the best midfielder.
Wow. Okay.
going off just winning.
So okay, no, we'll take it. Actually, what nearly happened? If he was in that Chelsea team when Chelsea pressed the Bayern, would he be considered in that?
No,
I reckon
he
would. But at the same time, he's playing against Lampard, and
Gerrard would have.
It would have been a good duo to have in the middle.
They would have been a good duo, but I'm glad Gerrard stayed at Liverpool for the sake of, not because he didn't win anything and haha, I'm a salty Everton fan, but for the sake of he wouldn't be overshadowed at Chelsea.
As the first midfielder, as the holding midfielder, we've all got Lampard in that spot, yeah? Right, we've got Lampard sorted.
So
now we've got
Lampard
the right centre mid and the left centre mid.
Right, well then, who's everyone's next one then? So
mine
is also Roy Keane.
Mine's Roy Keane. So we've got 2 Roy Keanes.
Can't be having this.
Mine is.
Sorry, Lewis, go on.
My one's actually David Silva.
That's a good shout.
I think that's a shout. I think
because there are so many. He's like the fact that he's been there for 10 years. He's probably like what 33 now. Like easily last 4 or 5 years, he could have easily been replaced by someone younger, and yet he still managed to stay in that team. He's managed to, I don't know, I feel like he's just done a lot better. And you see a lot of pundits like hyping him up, and I think there's got to be good reasons behind that.
Him and Yaya Toure are better than De Bruyne, in my opinion. I think they should be considered above De Bruyne.
Back in 2015, 16, whenever it was. He was unbelievable for City.
Yeah. However, like I think Yaya Toure, if he had kept that up for however many more years, I think he'd be a bit in there. But I think he only kept that up for like 3 or 4 years. So
and also he had birthday cake issue, so he can't be.
If we're going off primes of players, then Yaya Toure is number 2 behind Frank Lampard.
Well, in my book, he wasn't at the top for long enough for him to be considered on that level.
He was at the top for 3 or 4 seasons.
That's when City and Man United actually had a rivalry.
Like when he was in that. To put it simply, I would say for example, if we're talking about Man City midfielders, De Bruyne is now above Yaya Toure because De Bruyne stepped into
consistent
the Premier League
midfielder
and has been the best since probably second.
Yeah, he's definitely the best player in the Premier League.
De Bruyne is the best player in the Premier League, hands down.
Yeah, I was going to say, like he's been
the best player in the Premier League, but not the best player in the history of the Premier League.
With De Bruyne, he's been consistently doing this again for like another 5 years. I think if you give him like another 2 or 3 years, I think he'll definitely be in a shout with this.
I would definitely have De Bruyne in there.
My thing is, for example, my thing is, if De Bruyne goes next year, he's not in my 11, by the way, but if De Bruyne goes next year, Man City win the league and he maybe wins a PFA Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne is literally, because most people do it on, like I do it on mainly on like how many years they were here and how consistent they were at the top of their level, and De Bruyne is very close to getting into that level.
Like, for example, if you go for that argument, then, for example, Fernando Torres doesn't make the shortlist for the best forwards if he has time in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And
he wouldn't make it in.
Right, so we've got Lampard, and everyone's saying a bit of Roy Keane as well. Are we going to put him in there as well?
Me and Ashlee have said Roy Keane. No. Lewis.
I'd put David Silva
as well.
So we've got 2 David Silvas and 2 thingy. Who do you say, Harvey? You don't have to say either of them. Pick your own if you'd like.
De Bruyne, because the sort of player that Keane was a captain, and we already have captains in our team. I think that De Bruyne takes a spot above him purely because of his attacking threat. And, you know, he was well on track to beating the assist record in the Premier League this season if all of this virus stuff hadn't happened.
Well,
I hope he does.
Premier League's coming back.
So for that reason, I will have De Bruyne as my number 2.
Right.
Well, that helps nothing, doesn't it? Now we're just stuck again, aren't we, Harvey? You could have just picked that up the 2, couldn't you?
I think it's going to have to be Lampard, Keane, and Silva.
I've let Harvey state his opinion, but now Harvey for number 2 because it's a tied 2-all vote. You're coming in as the plus man here.
Well, I think that midfield 3 is settled then.
De Bruyne. Bloody hell!
So
wait, are we going Silva?
No, David Silva.
So for number 4, so I'm going to close a bit of thingy here. Calstagram, you're supposed to be a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, and I've been crying on the end of this phone because you won't let me say that Gerrard's the best midfielder, and it's making me cry.
But he's not the best.
But yeah, no, Gerrard needs to be
Put
in
it
there.
simply.
He wasn't in a good team, and yet he's still one of the greatest Premier League captains, and I will stand by that.
Okay,
I love the guy.
Let's pause this here and argue. Fernando Torres, Xabi Alonso.
I don't think it's fair to put them up there.
Pepe Reina was a good player.
Yeah, but when he's starting that 2000, when he's playing alongside Djibril Cissé in the Champions League final in 2005, that's not a good team, is it?
Liverpool fans can't make the argument. Gerrard never had good players next to him. For 3 or 4 years, you had the best team in the Premier League.
I just think Gerrard's close, but he's not there.
Gerrard is here's my thing. Gerrard is number 3. Gerrard is number 3 for me. But
I think he needs to be in there.
Gerrard is not.
The only reason he's not is because of that slip.
We don't let this slip.
If Gerrard would have still won a Premier League that year, Gerrard is still number 3. The slip makes other people look at Gerrard in a worse fashion because he bottles it at every opportunity except one.
You can leave that one out.
Okay, and maybe the FA Cup where they played West Ham as well. But no, because you have to look at when did Gerrard come clutch. That's an example in the 2000. But you wouldn't even. But would you even say Gerrard was the main factor in them coming back from 3-0 down? I'd say it was Rafa Benitez personally.
Yeah, but you can't look past that goal. That is crazy. People call that final the Gerrard final, and you've got to see why. That goal is crazy.
But at the same time, that's not Premier League, so.
Anyway,
I've never even heard of.
Let's leave that.
Right. Anyway, so we haven't. So is midfielder free?
I'm okay with
David. Do you want to make your case for?
I want David Silva
to get in. I'm saying Gerrard.
Please let me have Gerrard in here.
The number 3 behind Gerrard.
Gerrard, I want no. See, here's the thing: you actually can't go back because it's you're putting a Man City grade in or you're putting a Liverpool grade.
Go on.
Ashlee.
David, just because we can't. Please, Gerrard. I mean, he wasn't. He never won the Premier League, but if you've got to think of all the other stuff that he contributed in, obviously he had some dodgy seasons and he could have gone here. He could have gone here. His commitment to Liverpool makes him one of their best ever Premier League midfielders.
If we're going off commitment, Gabriel Bongo is the greatest striker in Premier League.
No, but he could. Gabriel Bongo was hardly ever going to any other clubs, really. There was hardly bids coming in from most of the other teams. He was never going to have good success at Liverpool, and nearly did near the end.
But Gerrard was going to snake you.
And then even you say about the bids, the only bid that people actually know about is Chelsea, and that's it. One bid for Gerrard.
Yeah, but he was more or less guaranteed success in that team. Roman Abramovich had recently just come in.
No, because here's my thing.
He would have won the Premier League title.
How was Gerrard guaranteed success when he was replacing? I believe he was replacing Makelele. So, if you want to put it simply, he was good.
Oh, who's that then? I'm leaving. Harvey. I'm actually going to go.
But here's my thing.
I'm home because of the lockdown, but I'm going to leave.
You can't disrespect the contribution Gerrard made to the Premier League and to modern midfielders. Because if you look at a lot of modern midfielders, they will say Steven Gerrard is their inspiration. But you cannot say Steven Gerrard is maximum 3.
That's what makes it different for him.
He wasn't a winner in anything. He's not even going to be a winner as a manager. He doesn't have that killer instinct. You can see it. And because here's my thing is, if Steven Gerrard had killer instinct, Liverpool would have a Premier League title. What happened when Gerrard had to show that killer instinct?
I think it's unfair to put it down to that because he obviously didn't. There wasn't a lot that he could do about it. It was a misplaced foot, and then it was one of the most iconic scenes in Premier League history. Just as fast as that.
But did he not then?
Istanbul
proceed to bottle the next game against Crystal Palace, and then in his last game. But that in his last
just making me cry now at this point, lads.
Did Steven Gerrard, according to Liverpool fans, greatest midfielder to ever play in the Premier League,
he scored this last game
by Ryan Shawcross and
not to forget.
Jack Botman let him, but we'll still
What are we doing? Is it Gerrard or is it Silva? Let's start from the beginning.
Right. So simply, I've slagged him off, but I'm saying Gerrard.
David Silva.
I'm going to have a change of heart. I think I might go Gerrard now.
Oh, you can't.
Harvey.
It's
Calstagram.
It's done. It's Gerrard.
Gerrard, I think.
Ashlee.
I think if I had to pick.
Stevie G. Right, so our midfield 3 is
Poor Paul Scholes.
Stevie G.
Harvey, I love you. You absolute legend.
Right, team.
You're welcome, Calstagram.
Didn't even
We'll
mention
move
Paul
on
Scholes
to
at
the
any
front
point,
three,
and I
don't
think
we?
that
That's
just
the
proves that
next
he's not
step.
part of that debate.
So I'm going to count
Go
up to the
for it.
front three. I'm going to count up how many players there are and tell you right now how many forwards we have. So this is a bit harder. We have 23 forwards to choose from.
Christ.
And yes, people listening, we have missed names out. There's a lot of good forwards.
Right.
Stop complaining. There's
Take it
23
away.
players. That's enough. Right. So, the short
Go
list,
for it.
I'm going to take a drink of water before I tell you the short list. We have Thierry Henry, Wayne Rooney, Alan Shearer, Drogba, Ronaldo, Vardy, Owen, Hazard, Giggs, Defoe, Crouch, Fowler, Kane, Aguero, Bent, Andy Cole, Berbatov, Van Persie, Torres,
I think you've already
Cantona,
got my
Suarez,
three now.
Ian Wright.
I've definitely got one.
Right.
I think I have.
So I'm putting this simply.
Yeah,
Right down the
100%.
middle,
No,
Alan
if you
Shearer.
dispute that, you're
Right
wrong.
centre forward, we'll have him there.
Like record goal scorer, you can't
So our
not
middle,
say.
He's in my
The
three,
man's got the record.
right,
but
so let's
like,
put it simply. He may not be 1-1, but Alan Shearer gets in. Am I correct? For everyone,
Yes.
Alan Shearer is in.
yeah, just put him in straight
On the
away,
left-hand
basically.
side, Henry.
Right. Number 2, Henry is
What?
in for everybody. Correct.
How?
No,
Yeah, I put
How
Henry
are
Henry
you
in.
in.
not
Not.
putting Henry in there?
Well,
Oh, who's
no,
You can't.
because there's
They're not
people like Wayne Rooney
comparable.
who scored loads of goals for Man
get
United.
out.
And to be fair, Aguero was a very decent player
Why
as well.
Why can't you put Wayne Rooney and Henry?
You can't have Aguero.
If you argue
in
for
there.
Because I
Fernando
want
Torres,
Aguero in
you're
there as
getting
well.
his
Was a great
They're
clinical
two different
striker.
players. Oh my
To be honest,
God.
Aguero was going to be my other one, so I can vouch for that.
Put
He's
this simply for
he
you.
literally won
We're
that
talking
league.
about- So, Calstagram, our position we are talking about, correct, my friend, is forwards.
Yes.
Thierry Henry has the most golden balls in Premier League history. Or golden boots, sorry. Golden balls, best player. Golden boots in Premier League history. That means he's got the most seasons where he scored the most goals in Premier League history. Which means, technically, he's the best
I
goal
would have to
scoring
agree.
forward, besides Alan Shearer, in Premier League.
How long was he there for?
He was there 99 to
I-
07,
I-
and he got the most.
I'm gonna have to whack.
It has to be Thierry Henry.
Yeah, I'm whacking Thierry Henry on it.
Yeah, I think Henry for me as well.
I'm gonna
Gaff, do you
put it
agree?
simply. Thierry Henry is the only footballer I've ever watched in the Premier League that has made me
Agreed.
want to nut watching him.
Jesus.
The man put no effort into. He looked like he put no
Yeah.
effort in, and was still better than every other player on the pitch. And that includes players like Robert Pires, Dennis
Okay,
Bergkamp,
so by
and stuff
majority,
like that. He was
it's
better
3
than
to
all of them.
5. I think we've got Shearer up top and Henry on the left.
Yeah.
That leaves one more position.
And then next player, I feel like Ashley's giving me that look on the Zoom call ring that you lot can't see. But the
Do you
first
know what?
forward is Wayne Rooney.
I think
It's a
yeah.
tough one, but I
Let
think
me
Rooney
put
gets
out a
in
very
there
controversial thought on
third.
this. It's Vazquez.
If it's Carlton Cole, I
It's
say no.
Vazquez. Let me explain why I pick this person. And I say Suarez, but
Andy
hear me out, please. He equalled the goal-scoring record in the Premier League with 5 games short. He also got 13 assists in the same season. He was unbelievable for that season.
For that one
But
season.
that was one season,
He
and he was
moved to
only that good for
Barcelona
about
and
another
he
2 or
held a
more.
Messi to the Golden Boot.
So,
You don't just do that.
So, right.
That's very true.
yes, but that isn't Premier League.
Exactly.
So about Premier League, Aguero
Exactly.
gets in way
Very true.
more than that. So I don't think Suarez is in the conversation.
Put it simple. Prime Luis Suarez
Yeah.
is Barcelona Luis Suarez.
I've got a
2015, where he scored 40 goals. It's not Liverpool Luis Suarez.
I mean, if we go back to what
Because
was
simply,
if we go back to what was
with
being
Luis
said in the
with
midfielder
Luis
thing, then like you were talking about Torres. They're quite similar players, Torres and Suarez, in my opinion.
Aguero's definitely there. Aguero.
Yeah, because like he's a record.
I think
Aguero's record goal scorer for Man City. Like, yes, Man City obviously haven't been great before he came, but like even still, to be record goal scorer of the club, especially in this day and age as well, the defenders we have, I think.
I'm going to say something controversial here. Wayne Rooney
Yeah.
is
he's not
the
even-
best team in the history of English football.
Yeah, I think. But then again, I think Rooney gets in ahead of Aguero, so it's really close. I think mine is Shearer, Henry, and Rooney.
No.
To put it simply, Wayne Rooney dropped into midfield for his last 3 or 4 years and still is the second best scorer in Premier League.
He's still doing it at Everton as well.
Had to.
He's still doing it, isn't he? Oh, he's still
Fantastic, that.
right. I'm gonna throw. So I think we agree that our front three is Shearer, Rooney, and Thing. But since we've agreed so early on the forwards, I'm going to throw out some names to you, and I basically want everyone to give me their opinion on this player, and basically just give an argument why they could get in. Obviously, number one, we haven't mentioned him. Harvey is literally going to kill himself because we haven't mentioned him.
The true goat.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
I think when you think of Cristiano Ronaldo,
I say no because
when you think of Cristiano Ronaldo, you don't think of United
Sorry.
Cristiano Ronaldo. You think of Real Madrid Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
purely because his prime years. Yes, he won one Ballon d'Or at Man United.
Let me just his Ronaldo fanboy.
His prime years were at Real. If anybody can't see that, then they don't know football.
Yeah.
I worship him as a footballer, but his prime was at Real Madrid. And when it comes to this, I don't think it's even fair to include him.
No.
But in saying that, would any of you go as far as adding Hazard to this choice?
If we don't,
no,
if we don't mention
but
Hazard,
a very good option.
Surely if we mention Hazard, surely we mention Ryan Giggs as well.
Yeah, right. I think Ryan Giggs gets in the conversation as well.
Yeah,
he spent at least 20 years in the Manchester United team, and it's the same point of Gary Neville and Dennis Irwin. Yes, he may have been favoured, but the fact 20 years, that's ridiculous. But the fact that, what Ryan Giggs was doing, what Ryan Giggs was doing at his mid-30s, even then, he was still ridiculous.
On the internet, the greatest Premier League strikers of all time, and in 1, there's Thierry Henry, 2 is Alan Shearer, and 3 is someone we haven't mentioned in Eric Cantona.
I don't put Eric Cantona there.
He's got 4 league titles.
I don't know.
And 70 goals
sorry. God.
50 games.
But there's other Man United strikers that are better than him in this list. One of them is Rooney.
Worth a shout.
Eric Cantona, out of all these players, Eric Cantona is the biggest trailblazer. Eric Cantona, if we have to go off influence, gets in the team ahead of Alan Shearer. Because if you compare players, Henry and Cantona,
I have never watched him. I don't know what type of player that is. I grew up watching Rooney. I've grown up watching Aguero in their primes. I haven't ever taken the time out of my day to watch Cantona's prime years, if you will. So,
I mean, the only real thing I know about Cantona is obviously the kick and that chip that he scored, and he sort of just stands there and looks around. Like, look at me, I am God.
My issue with Giggs, for example, is he played in the most high-powered offense, and no one can argue this. Man United fans cannot argue this. Manchester United were the most high-powered offense in the league every year. They were high-powered. They were in your face.
Yeah.
Why did Ryan Giggs never score more than 5 league goals? Why did Ryan Giggs
That's not the way they played.
The wingers game has changed.
Scoring. That's why do you think Rooney and people like that got so many goals?
But
Nani
the
was
thing is,
incredible.
Manchester United wingers were inside forwards. Nani was an inside forward. Ronaldo was an inside forward. Ryan Giggs wasn't an inside forward because Ryan Giggs only had 1 foot. Ryan Giggs only had 1 foot that worked.
If he didn't have that chest,
my thing is, Ryan Giggs would be looked at better, but obviously he was just.
We've all had this story.
Ryan Giggs was not a well-behaved.
But does that affect him being a good footballer?
Well, we can't have John Terry in there, surely. By that logic, John Terry does not need to play in.
On this website, it's got Giggs on the same level of bad. Is it Rooney?
Yeah. Rooney's better.
I think we all agree Rooney.
Rooney's better, but Aguero doesn't even mention him. That's very high.
To put it simply,
that's our team.
To put it simply, Rooney is free.
But 4 doesn't make it, so it doesn't matter. So Rooney.
Please tell me. No, that Sir Alex.
We're in agreement that Carlton Cole doesn't get in. Yes.
Premier
League manager.
Yeah, definitely.
With Arsene Wenger being.
I don't think there's any dispute.
The closest second.
The closest.
But
who do you think then?
I mean, Roy Hodgson.
Do you know what? That's
no. Jose Mourinho.
No, Arsene Wenger.
Respect, man.
3 Premier League titles.
Arsene Wenger, 100%.
Respect, man. Respect.
If Mourinho's producing Tottenham, I'd put him closer, or if not above Arsene Wenger. He spent so long at Arsenal.
I think Arsene Wenger managed for 20 years to keep Arsenal at a consistent Champions League for the most part, spots. And
To be fair,
Invincibles as
Mourinho
well.
Champions League.
Mourinho got
Right.
him from Man United.
That's
It's
Porto.
only because a lot of his success is abroad. I'm going to have to put Arsene Wenger above Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, for a
With Sir
Premier
Alex
League
Ferguson,
manager,
the
Arsene Wenger.
undisputed
Yeah, I think Arsene Wenger
GOAT.
100% is second.
I said a lot. I mean, he's at Porto, Inter
How is
Milan,
most of
Real
Jose
Madrid.
Mourinho's accomplishments abroad?
Yeah,
He won
Porto
to
team
win
wasn't-
with Porto is insane. Let's be honest. That is the
Yeah, but unfortunately, Porto are not in the Premier League.
Hi everybody, this is Callum from the magical world of editing, and I'd just like to thank you all for watching the first episode of the Panenka podcast. Usually we'd have an outro in the episode, but things got a bit hectic and off topic, so I thought I'd come in and outro this myself. Make sure you check us out on all our social medias if you can, that would really help. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, listen to us on Spotify, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all the usual stuff, and I hope everybody enjoyed. Lewis, Harvey, Calstagram and Ashlee, I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And make sure to stay tuned for our second episode, which will be on Bundesliga predictions. Thank you everybody for watching this, it means so much, and goodbye.